right, welcome back to another episode of Do You See What I Mean? And today, Mia, as we record, the first 6 months of the year are behind us, and there are only 5.5 months left of 2027. So what we thought we would do is take a look back and mention some films, and most of these we think are worth watching. We'll share a bit more commentary, and that will take us right up until next week, where we will review The Odyssey. Just a couple of headlines for you, Mia. The Odyssey launches tomorrow in IMAX theaters around the world, and then it'll be at big box cinemas. You can find it at your Alamo Draft Houses, your AMC. A lot of great buzz about this, Mia, so far. I heard a podcaster say that she thinks it's the only contender for Best Picture. Everybody's been looking great at premieres. People were saying, "Gosh, is this like our generation's Lawrence of Arabia? What is he going to do next?" So I don't
Okay.
know. It's
Okay.
sounding pretty good.
Because can I tell you something? I don't think I've ever seen Lawrence of Arabia, but I've
Yeah, I get
wanted
it.
to go back and see it. It's just, I think the way that it was put out back then, it was like some 4 hour movie,
Oh
which
yeah,
now
for sure.
movies are 4 hours. But when you when you think about
I know.
like the old like double VHS situation, you're like,
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't
on your
have time
parents'
for
shelf.
that. Yeah, so
Totally.
I need to go
Yep.
back and catch that.
Yeah, we should do a summer watch of that. It's a great summer movie. It's beautiful in the desert, and actually later, um, Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg found some of the missing footage that director David Lean had intended, and I think most of the cuts that we're watching are based off of Scorsese and Spielberg's work in LA reassembling it. So it's got a kind of a really fun story. So, our generation's Lawrence, maybe it's the Odyssey. We'll see. We're both going to see that tomorrow and come back here next week, listener, for our review of that. Just a couple of other headlines, Mia. You probably saw. I don't know if you saw the Paramount merger. Paramount merging with Warner Brothers under the Ellison family, which of course is Oracle money, which of course is tied to Trump. 12 states are joining a lawsuit to stop the merger, and you've got a couple of European countries who are also trying to stop it. Europe, as we know, has been the leading global regulatory body holding companies like Google and Facebook accountable when the US fails to do so. So that is
Mm.
kind of dragging on. We don't know what's
That's
going to happen
can
there
I tell you though, that is important. I feel like when the international parties like say no,
for
because
sure,
there is so much film money that gets made overseas. It is
especially these days.
literally,
Yep.
yeah, it's almost like you have to count like an international audience in a way that
Yep.
like back in the day they used to just pretend like that didn't exist and that we owned the like aesthetic and attitude of filmmaking. That is
Yeah.
just not true, and that's kind of like a, I don't know, that's kind of what Netflix has like snuck into our world.
Yeah.
Like we watch so much foreign content as much as they're consuming
100%.
ours. So if they're not
100%.
getting their money, then I'm like, hold on out, y'all. Hold on out. Keep
Yeah,
holding out.
exactly. Netflix was also in the headlines this last week as we saw speculation posted by Variety that they might buy Letterboxd. Now, Letterboxd started just a couple of years ago. I actually think it goes back to 2012 or 2013, but its popularity is sort of recent. It's a New Zealand or Australia company. It is a much better user experience than IMDb. To,
Okay,
to look at
wait.
something on, yeah, go ahead.
Were you an old school IMBD person? Because I was the old school
I
IMBD
don't think
person
so. What was it
before they.
like?
Oh my God, it was perfect. I mean, it was perfect because there was chat rooms and conversations happening about the film or the performers or the music or whatever. So let's say you were watching that movie, but it came out in like 1979.
Sure,
There
older.
were
Yeah.
people in there just like still in the IBD chat, still talking about it, still, giving some personal history. And when it got bought and that disappeared, I remember everybody was sad about that particular feature going away, which of
Yes.
course now somewhat lives in Reddit, but not in that way where you didn't have to be top headline type movie. You could have been a
Yeah.
very cute, like
It's a great point.
obscure indie film and found a crowd of people who just loved it or lived in the town where it was filmed
Yes.
and knew
Yeah.
the person who wrote the score, and it was very cool. In fact, I think with the old IMBD, it was almost like something to do with the way the records were kept as well. It ran a little bit
Wow.
more like, I want to say a little closer to Wikipedia, where you had to do a little more fact checking. But here was the problem. if you were on IMDb, you also could catch major spoilers because if the
Oh,
actor was going to be in that next season, like you thought he died, maybe he didn't
yep,
die. Well, his IMDb record's showing him in the next season. So there was
hilarious.
also kind of like a spoiler space in there where you could do a little sleuthing to find out who's working on what. Now, to me, IMDb is just a quick fact check of who's who and what else did they do, but it used to have so much more community depth to it.
Well, and that's
All
a great
gone.
point. Yeah, that's a great point as we talk about Letterboxd because the community is part of the value offering. You can record films that you've watched, you can review them, you can see what your friends are watching, and you can recommend stuff. So that community element might be changed. And I just think about what happened when Amazon bought IMDb. It just became so flooded with ads, both mobile and
Yep.
desktop. I find the site almost unusable. It is drowning in ads, and we just don't want that to happen
And
to
I refuse to
Letterboxd.
have the app. I refuse to
Good.
download the app. Every
I don't
time
use
they
the app
ask,
either.
I say, nope, I want to stay on the web browser. There's no need for me to
Exactly.
go there. There's no experience to be had beyond what I'm looking
Yeah.
for. But
Yeah.
Letterbox seems to have tackled that need that like we all were like we just want to talk about this weird movie or even a short. You could have saw a short
Sure.
somewhere, and now you can go to Letterboxd and kind of like write your review, interact a little bit more. So I'm all for more interactive film discussion.
Yeah. I know.
Clearly,
Me too. Okay, our last piece of news before we start our 2026 look back is just to remember beloved Sam Neill, who passed away after appearing in over 100 films, Mia. And he had been just like a companion to our childhood from Jurassic Park on. Laura Dern offered one of the nicest quotes saying that he showed her the depths of loyalty, protectiveness, love. He was a true and noble gentleman wrapped up in my dream leading man. Laura Dern is so good at this. She offered similar comments when David Lynch passed away. She's sort of like this. She's a Hollywood matriarch, and people go to her for these comments because, like Sam Neill, she's been in so many pictures. But did you like Sam Neill growing up? I mean, do you feel like you've seen a lot of his movies? Is he one of your favorites?
I mean, I saw a lot of his movies, but he
Yeah,
sometimes did a really okay, here's the thing. Sometimes actors can be too good. And when you're a
yeah.
kid and you catch them in one or two things, they still will conjure up those same experiences. So I remember seeing him in what's the sci-fi movie that he did? Not it wasn't Hellraiser, but it's like a vibe of that. What am I? It's like when we say it, we're gonna be like, yes, that
Event Horizon,
Event
right?
Horizon, and that
Yes.
one scared the shit out
Oh
of
my gosh,
me.
me too.
And it
Yep.
might have been my first experience with him. I do think he played another like more um, specific character in the piano.
Yes, you got it.
And he did a few other films that I just found him so intimidating sometimes. So when he
Yes.
would pull the Jurassic Park roll out, where he's
Yeah.
got these sensitivities and he's actually a sweet person, you knew even at a young age this guy had so much range. He
Totally
wasn't
agree.
a typecasted actor in that way, but he had a way of playing this. Interesting enough, he always seemed to have a certain way of delivering a certain type of moral authority in his
Yes.
films
Great
that
point.
you're like you kind of need him, like you all like the
Yeah.
film will always need him. So I don't really know who that is today.
It's a great
uh
point. Yeah, I was trying to think about that too. Who replaces him? We certainly have wonderful actors in his
yeah.
generation. The Richard Gere's, Michael Douglas is pretty much retired at this point, but these 80s, 90s, and 2000s, I mean, every major picture had one of these guys. And you're right, he did a lot in sci-fi, In the Mouth of Madness, Event Horizon. He was a vampire in Daybreakers. But then he was just this icon in the Jurassic Park trilogy, the first three. And he partnered so well with so many different types of actors in scenes. And his face was just so iconic. So we remember him as we head into today's episode, and we're going to get started on our 2026 look back right after this. right, welcome back. We're talking about 8 to 10 films that we think that you should consider from the last 6 months of 2026. So Mia, if you don't mind doing the honors, start us off.
Oh my goodness. So I think one of the films that made us go like, hey, I think we should start up again. Like we should just start recording again.
It was.
Was The Drama. And
The Drama.
This film came out directed by Christopher Borgley. You have Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, starring as a couple who are engaged. They are on the way to the altar, and some drama kicks off before they're getting married that threatens to change the trajectory of their lives forever. Right. But the drama is actually, I definitely enjoyed this film. It was quite tense for me. I was like, Joe, you want to see it? You were like, I don't, and I was like, I'm having to talk him too much into this. I know I want to see this. And one of the things I remember thinking is this film really nails it in the trailer. Okay, so doesn't give everything away. You have a lot of cute jokes that are happening, so you know it's a comedy, but not all the funniest jokes show up in the trailer, and you can feel like I need to understand more. So when you get into this film, obviously, if you haven't seen it, please check it out. But there is sort of a reveal that is kind of the reveal that I don't even know if everybody should have this before their wedding or not.
It's a good point. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a staple, but anyways, saw it. I was tense. I was definitely watching it as especially because I think Zendaya does a fantastic job as kind of slipping in, the woman of color type of dynamic. You know, she doesn't really shy away from that as her identity in her characters. Sure. And so this film kind of took on a little bit more body than I think it was supposed to for everybody. But it really talks about something that I think is so crucial, which is just intimacy. What is it? Who do we share it with? Who's safe? Who are people that maybe you do need to learn how to put on your best performance for? It certainly should not be your partner. But it's definitely one of those things of like, in real life, as we learn about people, sometimes it just happens. It vomits itself out. Sometimes it's slower.
Absolutely.
But it's all about how we respond to it. And that's where a film like this, it really, even if you have a spoiler or you feel like you already know what it's about, it doesn't kill this film. It's all about like, how would we respond if we were given this type of information? Which characters do we identify the most with? And I thought it was even fun to see the engagement online and like how people, when I first came out, I was mad because I was thinking, I hope everybody else clocks the villain that I'm clocking. So that was the scariest part of this film. Other than that, when you go online, you're going to find everybody clocked the same villain for the most part. For sure. So it's not as like vague or unresolved as the ending would have you believe. So the ending does give you a little like, but in your heart, things get resolved, and I feel like you walk away really enjoying getting to know this very young couple who have everything ahead of them.
I agree. It was a great watch. It's very funny. It could be a nice double feature with The Invite, which Mia and I covered last week. It's also one of 3 performances in 2026 between these 2 big powerhouses whose stars are rising, Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. They're also in The Odyssey, and they're also in Dune Part 3, the trailer for which just dropped this week. Spoiler, it features a lot of yelling about religion. But I had a great time at the drama with you, Mia. Do you think it could, there could be any awards buzz around the drama?
I definitely think there should be. Because to me, this is kind of like what the future of filmmaking needs to have more of. I know we are looking forward to The Odyssey, but not every film director or world builder is about to get that budget. Can you tell a story, and can you tell something that carries us along from act to act? And between The Drama and The Invite, these are 2 films that do that incredibly well. Like, you do not slumber for these movies.
Yes, great point.
But talk about, those are also, to me, probably the most difficult movies to edit. So if I saw some
Yeah.
sort of an editing or some sort of a supporting actor, these films do not do well without their supporting actors. No matter who the star couple is or the focus couple is, without their co-stars, it just doesn't. Nothing gets
Yeah.
mirrored back for us to
Right.
understand.
Right.
So these are films that I will tell you this: if they show up at the Oscar season, I would say yes, this is the bar that needs to be set. Giving actors characters to play, good
Right.
scripts, decent
Right.
enough settings and costumes, and that are modern but
Yeah.
classic issues, guys.
Yeah.
These are not
I agree.
like these are films that probably have so many references from the 70s.
For sure. Very Ingmar Bergman esque. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, our next film is a new action caper by director Guy Ritchie. And if you missed it, listeners, it's because it kind of dropped on Netflix. And I kind of feel bad for the Netflix effect. It just feels like a drop in the water. I don't even know if
Joey,
this
I
had a
saw this
theatrical.
one at the theater. I did see this one at the theater.
For sure. I just mean that if folks missed it, it is on Netflix,
Oh,
and
it's
you
on
really
Netflix
should
now.
go back to get this. So this is the new Guy Ritchie film, In the Gray, and it features a attorney who is going after a cartel boss for an unpaid debt, and she is supported by these two mercenaries that she has helped out of a prison a long time ago. So they're loyal to her. They're played by Jake Gyllenhaal and Henry Cavill, who have great chemistry. And this one might feel like one you could skip, Mia, but I
Yeah.
watched it a couple of times, and what's brilliant about this film is that it rehearses the action with you. So the first act is Guy Ritchie and Jake Gyllenhaal and their team on this remote Spanish island saying, here's how we're going to get our attorney friend out. Here's plan A, B, and C. You see them build traps, they rehearse it, and then they go through the action. So if you like Guy Ritchie, if you like Snatch, The Gentleman, if you like Mobland, it's pretty wry and in you could say dry. It is funny, but it's a pretty serious one. But it's a great watch at home, and it's got some great chemistry between Gyllenhaal and Cavill, and a nice central performance too by our female lead. Looking back me a couple months to when you saw this, did it stay with you? Do you remember liking it?
Oh, I laughed. I thought it was. I was
Okay,
like,
cool.
okay. I thought it was actually funny, so it did give me more Snatch, because Snatch has a lot of people would just leave
Yes.
that film kind of quoting weird scenes that made them laugh, like goofy, scenarios. But this film, I thought, how do I say it? It gave me old school, like, okay, I don't. Please, guys, remember the reference. If you're an '80s kid, you remember Steven Seagal, okay? And you
Oh my
remember
gosh,
how
totally.
straightforward those movies were. You remember how straightforward the action is. There's nothing here that is going to like blow your skirt up. This is not James Bond, but it was fun. Like I went and I thought this was a fun movie. If you're on a plane, this is a fun movie to watch that you're going to laugh
Great point.
appropriately to.
Yes, it's entertaining.
It's
It's action
entertaining.
filled.
You can watch it with your family. You can watch it with the kids. It's just old school, simple action. Give me John Claude
I
Van
agree.
Damme.
Yep,
Give
one hundred
me
percent.
give me old Wesley Snipes. Like it's that simple, y'all. It's
Yes,
that
I
simple.
agree. I agree. And again, it's got a great central performance by Isa Gonzalez, who also played one of the sub team in I Love Boosters. She's really capable here and does a great job. Mia, I don't think there's any awards really for this one, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a fun summer watch. And we do think that people should check it out.
It was on brand for sure.
On brand. Yeah. All right, Mia, tell us about our next one.
Okay, so I saw this film called The Christophers. It's Steven Soderbergh.
Oh, yes, the
Okay,
Soderbergh. I missed this.
Soderbergh. Okay, so he did this film. It's got Nicola
Cole.
Cole, and then it's got Ian McKellen. It has Jessica Gunning from everybody remembers that Baby Reindeer. James Corden is in
Oh,
there.
right.
So this film is about a guy who is an artist. He's a very well-known artist, but after a certain period, he really stopped with his series and just the Christophers. There was a series that just never took off. Now,
Okay. Yeah.
apparently, he is kind of like it's got all of this myth and legend built around it. So his two children recognize that he is sick, he's ailing, and it is time to they want to have some money. This man is maybe broke, okay? So they're thinking, how do we get some of his artwork out there so we can collect some money off of it because he's not finishing it. So they actually hire Michaela to kind of come in and pretend like she's just there to assist and help him, but really she's there to finish this unfinished artwork. Little do they know is that she used to be kind of like one of his mentees or
Oh,
apprentices or
okay.
students.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Actually, that's not true. She was someone who did an art contest whereby he judged her very, very harshly. And that is where they have their conflict. This film, I'm going to tell you, you don't need to see it. This is so, I don't mean
You
this
heard
in
it
a
here
bad way,
first.
but it was, I think it's a really beautiful exercise. I did like some of the elements of this film. I went to go see it because I did like the starring actress. I pretty much will watch anything she's in. She delivers. Everybody delivers. Even the director delivers. What doesn't deliver here is the script. So that
Okay.
is where you realize that the director saw something that he can play with. He had all the actors to play with it, but unfortunately, this is where the script is going to be so tight and focused. You would have gone to art school to understand all of
Okay.
its
Some of the
suspense.
references. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. In
not even
context.
references. It's just like, what's their problem? But I was like,
Yeah.
having gone to, I went to an art college. Like, I understood what was the pain of the
Yep.
story. But I'm like, if this is not something you experienced, either as a student or as a professional, even, it's going to fall too flat. So I can't recommend this film, but I do think that everybody kind of working together, they just needed a better script.
Okay. Yeah.
Something that was, because it's got humor too. It's got jokes, it's got humor,
Yeah.
it's got surprises. It just doesn't have it.
Okay.
Aw.
Okay.
Aw.
So I'll probably still check it out just so I can be a Soderbergh completist. This one is on Amazon, and it's the Christophers. One more before we take a quick break. Project Hail Mary is a story that we know about. It was one of the biggest films of the year. It did a great job at the box office. It is a rollicking buddy comedy directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. They did some of the Spider Man Spider Verse movies, so they're used to fast paced, frenetic, really high creative. And this one, you and I just mentioned recently, Mia, in our review of Disclosure Day, because both are alien movies, but this one is really fun and funny. You laugh, you cry. It really grounds itself on slapstick comedy. One quick example, Ryan Gosling is with Sandra Hüller, and they just have great chemistry because Ryan Gosling is so kind of goofy and befuddled, and Hüller is just kind of ice cold. But he's like, I could really use some water, and an assistant brings her 2 cups of coffee, and he goes, coffee will do, and she goes, sorry, these are both for me. I need both, and it's just like little
Cute.
cheap, not big budget comedy that just lasts through the whole thing. Another big headline about this was the puppet work done by the puppet master of Rocky, who is this rock
Mm.
based creature that Ryan Gosling meets. It was fun. It was light. It was a great trip to the movies. Do you remember it that way, Mia? Do you kind of have a glow around this picture too?
I thought it was really kind of like what do you hire Ryan Gosling to do?
He can do The Notebook. He can do um, Crazy Stupid Love, where he's like that,
Okay.
womanizer. He can do La La Land.
He is
Um,
always going to make us laugh, though. I'm sorry. I think
oh,
this
I see.
guy,
Yes, you're right.
okay, I guess no, to your point, yes, he has a range as an actor, but for the most part, he makes us smile and he makes
Yes.
us feel like, not everybody who's got bad going on is doing it on purpose. They can have some decent
Yes.
intentions.
Yep.
I'm thinking of what's that Half Nelson kind of film. My
Half Nelson,
Yeah,
another great reference. Yeah.
but it's kind
Yeah.
of to me his 1 hour stand up. If he had to do a 1 hour
That's a
stand
great,
up and
yes.
it's
Yeah.
called Project Hail Mary and he's in space, you best believe it's going to be family friendly. You best believe he's going to pitch himself as like a hot dude who just doesn't know it kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
It's
You
great.
best
Yes.
believe
I love it.
there's going to be Ryan Gosling. So if you enjoy that, you're going to enjoy Project Hail Mary. Otherwise, who else could have done this film? I guess somebody might have tried to go grab like what's his name, Pratt, Chris
Chris
Pratt.
Pratt. You're
I
right.
guess
You could see that. You
somebody
could see that
might have,
version.
but they would have been like, it's a little too in
Yeah.
conflict with his already franchise. So
But it does share an ingredient with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which
yeah.
are really big stakes, and you're out in outer space, but it's colorful and it's slapstick, and people are tripping and laughing. It does share that. That's a good
In other
reference.
words, this was one where I'd be like, watch this movie on the plane. But as soon as I start to say that, I think of gas prices. I think
That's
I
a
think
great
of
point.
flight prices. I'm doing this. Okay, you can watch this in the summer with your family when it's raining outside and y'all can't leave or you got to sleep over with the kids. Like this is the movie to throw on. It's cute.
Totally. Yep, it is very cute, and it is streaming on Amazon now. We've got more films to look at in our 2026 look back right after this on Do You See What I Mean? All right, welcome back to Do You See What I Mean? And we are talking about films that we think are notable from 2026. Our next one, Mia, tee it up for us and tell us what you thought.
Oh my God, it's The Devil Wears Prada. It's the second one,
Yes,
okay?
the sequel.
And you're talking
Yeah.
about the sequel that's coming out like over what 20 plus years later. I mean, guys, we barely noticed. Like this film was a classic, and it stayed
Yes.
playing on Syndicate for the last 2 decades. It's something you can always put on and watch. And this one I thought was a very specific comeback. First off, I saw it and I remember thinking I loved the career honesty that they were making about these characters. Two decades later, I think we're finally seeing that Miranda's throne is a little more icy and stony than it ever looked before. We recognize that Anne Hathaway did have a decent career and trajectory, but guess what got left behind? Her romantic life. So it wasn't without its cost, and it wasn't without its need for her to focus. We're meeting Emily Blunt's Emily, who honestly,
Yes.
when you look back, you're like, I don't know who's a bigger star of the first one, Meryl Streep or Emily Blunt. But Emily Blunt shows up and reminds you that no, this woman was clearly one of the biggest standouts for the first one.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
you get to
She stole it.
see a completely, like, to me, this was, as a woman in her 40s, a professional. I work in the fashion industry. It was something where I was like, okay, this is exactly how people ultimately move on with life.
Yes.
And I loved that they kind of cut the Cinderella. You remember in the first film, you have the
Oh, yeah.
Cinderella kind of track playing and
Rags to riches.
Yes.
Totally.
I
yeah.
love that that's revisited, and we get to see how did Cinderella work out in the castle. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
she got laid off. Oh, there was a regime change. Oh, there was, like, there's a few things going on where the brother is trying to take over the castle's throne. Like, I did like seeing that. I also like that it explores friendships that take place for us later in life. Like, clearly, I think we're seeing, like, in the 80s when women are popping in power suits, a lot of films showed women friendships between women in
Yeah.
a very specific way. And you watch this film and you do realize that the friendships that exist between women and other professionals can be life-changing. And, when
Yes.
you're going into the office and interacting with each other, when we say coworkers, it doesn't mean that it has a lesser impact on our lives than anything else. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed that. You see this very well played out in Stanley Tucci's character, Nigel. Oh my God, I think they had to give Miranda a husband in Kenneth Branagh. I mean,
I know.
that made me giggle every time because I was
100%.
thinking,
He
wait,
was great.
that's the husband we never saw like
In the
the first
right.
one. And then of course Justin Thurix, I don't know if he just like doesn't know how to not like go into these characters. He
Oh my
definitely plays the dorky billionaire boyfriend that honestly, like I said, this film, quite frankly, you can complain about it. When people are like, I didn't like it, First off, I'm going to say this. I actually don't think the fashions killed here. Looked good.
Agreed.
Everybody looked good, but I've seen better on Instagram, so I really didn't
100%.
a hundred
And also,
percent
Mia, we saw
understand that
better in
story.
I Love Boosters.
But
Frankly, there was
yes,
much more imaginative costume design.
but the
Yeah,
first one, you were like, holy shit, these are like, the
yeah.
styling was like on point. This one, I wasn't sure if they were trying to take a message about financial issues a little too far with Andy wearing some of the same outfits over and over again.
I
And
know.
putting, I was like, I mean, yeah, realistic, but
It could have been a surplus of choice because the story, and you're right about 20 years. The first one was in 2006. The story goes that no major brands were willing to participate in the first one because they were all terrified of Anna Wintour, who had a history of trying to squash films in Hollywood about the fashion
fashion
industry,
industry.
like
Yes.
Robert Altman's Pret Porter in the 90s. And she has not, um, been against this film because the first one did so well. And if Meryl Streep is playing you, then that's a pretty
Yeah.
big,
That's a big
pretty
deal.
big gesture. So this time the brands were flooding them. I heard from a friend who works at Disney that they were just inundated with partners and influencers. And so this one, to me, I think the press tour kind of eclipsed the picture. The picture is not very memorable. My favorite part was getting more screen time with Stanley Tucci and his three-piece tweeds. That I thought was kind of the best. So I don't think we're going to see awards for this one, but it is
Wait,
available.
I
Yeah,
be honest? This one for me, I might consider it for a few areas in casting. I think this one, I liked how everybody came back and played with each other. I know that's a new award, but there was something about the script here that stayed really honest. So I was saying that in my mind, the costumes may have been playing a role in them making a statement about like, hey, before we were showing you something so unrealistic and we want to be a little more responsible to say like you don't need a new
sure.
outfit every day to work. So I'm not saying it was wrong, I just am saying like I didn't get that fix here.
Yes, I
But
agree.
yes, okay, yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
it's a bit. It's worth checking out on kind of like a weekend or a cocktail party on Disney Plus
Maybe
or
you do,
Hulu.
maybe on the plane, maybe you can afford that flight.
I love that half of the movies that we talk about, Mia's like, "Oh, just watch it on the plane."
And now I'm like, this one I think you can watch on the plane, but on some of them I'm like,
It is
you're
very plane watchable. Yeah,
yes.
for sure. Next up is the latest feature by director David Lowery. He directed The Green Knight, A Ghost Story, and other kind of fantastical films, and it is Mother Mary. So this is part of quadruple Hathaway year. She's in The Odyssey. She is in a dinosaur movie with Ewan McGregor. She's in Verity with Dakota Johnson. She's in Devil Wears Prada 2, and she's in Mother Mary. So those make for a very big year for Anne Hathaway. So Mother Mary, this film doesn't really work. It's sort of a two-hander between Michaela Cole, who you just mentioned, Mia, from the Christophers, and Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway plays a kind of a faded pop star who's coming for a comeback tour. She's obviously been through some very serious issues. She's taken some time off the road. Michaela Cole is her costume designer, and so a very strung out Anne Hathaway goes to this English country house where Michaela Cole has a barn in which she pulls out fabric and makes creations. The film is one part two people being mean to each other in a room, another part very big production set pieces filmed in arenas that capture Anne Hathaway's real live performing. Let's not forget that she is a musical theater actress. She was in the live performance version of Les Mis. I will tell you this, Mia. I love some of the tableaus. We've talked about tableaus before. I'm a sucker for tableaus. So put Anne Hathaway in a nimbus crown in some fabulous getup and just shoot her. I liked that part. But what has stayed with me, Mia, is the soundtrack. Anne Hathaway spent 2 years recording this soundtrack on which she collaborated with Charlie XCX and
Mm.
FKA Twigs. I always say fuck a Twigs, but that's not appropriate or accurate. It's formerly known as Twigs, and she has some really interesting music online. So Mia, I would say I love the soundtrack a lot. It's a great pop soundtrack. I don't think the film really works, and it kind of went in and out of theaters quickly. What would
Oh
you share
yeah.
with listeners about
Can I
Mother
tell
Mary?
you're telling me something that I'm like, oh, okay, that's really helpful because really it's hard to get through this film. It is overly done with metaphor.
It is.
And
That's an honest take. Yeah.
going back to the Christophers, it's like you kind of have to have your kind of like artist archetype understanding down to a T to understand like what is their friction, like what is their
Right.
history, what's their problem,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm like, it's not a film for everybody. Like if you have to have
Yeah.
that information and the film doesn't want to teach you or help you understand that information, it's already for a small crowd.
Yeah.
But can I
Yeah.
tell you, it's once again, it's not an issue of the actors unable to perform.
No.
It's
Agreed.
not an issue of the visuals being so boring. The music, to your point, might be the only thing carrying you from scene to scene.
Yeah.
So it does a lot of the heavy lifting, and by the time you're done looking at Anne Hathaway looking so she's looking like Rachel getting married, went to rehab 5 times. Like she's looking
Super
sad
strung out.
and really
Yeah.
strung out.
Gaunt.
It gets a little bit like where's the character arc,
Yeah.
and what's the point? So once again, not a performer issue. I would say it's lacking in the script. It doesn't have the it factor. The director could have made it as conceptual as he wanted. He could have pulled out whatever visual, but there's no real story here that helps you connect.
I agree. I also don't think the story is honest. These two characters are so deeply and psychologically intertwined. I kept waiting for the romantic or sexual subplot because those were the symptoms that they were showing each other. The film, I don't know if it didn't have the gumption to go there, but it just didn't feel believable. And I think this is going to be one that's kind of forgotten. But, listener, you can check it out yourself. It's streaming on Apple and Amazon now. Mia, I have some real feelings about this next one. So please tell us what our next film and review is.
Okay, you know what? Obsession.
Obsession.
You have taken over the news. People were really taken back by this film. It's directed by Curry Barker.
Yep.
And it's starring a lot of up and comings: Michael Johnston, Indy Navarrete, Cooper Tomlinson, and Megan Lawless. It's not anything that's like the actors are drawing you in. It's the story. So you guys remember the trailer? The guy sitting in the car, he's like, "Does my girlfriend really love me?" And they're like, "Sir, does that shit really matter? Get in there." It's a film about a guy who has a crush who decides to kind of take matters in his own magical hands to kind of like wish her into his life. Once he does, he's stuck with the time old tale of like, you get exactly what you asked for.
That's
Be
right.
careful what you wish for, sir. So he ends up with a girlfriend who really is obsessed with him, but not really in her natural state. It's something where she's pulled into this line of insecurity and into this line of possessiveness because you can tell that her whole, it's like the whole curse is like made her existence so fragile. She's very
Yes.
dependent upon this man, but he is very much your typical guy who's just trying to not be a coward but can't help but be because he's so lonely. So this film gets very misogynistic from jump. Now, it's funny because the misogyny lives in a few different spaces. Number one, is he a victim? Number one, or number two, is she the crazy one? There's just all of these obvious. And so unlike the drama, this was one of those films that you don't walk out with a resolved audience. Some people walked out going, holy shit, that bitch is crazy. And then some people walked out with like he made her like that. Like there's definitely something where it picked up a lot of friction and tension in our own culture and society. So when you're watching this film, it's just a horror film. Think Pet Cemetery, man. Like, be careful what you wish for. But because of what's living in our society, sexuality-wise, gender-wise, this film does not resolve itself for you. You got to get online. You got to go
Yep.
on Letterbox, and you got to give it that one, or you got to give it that 5 star, and you got
Yep.
to build its friction. So it's a cool film in that. When was the last time I saw a film that much talked about by people who had never seen it? I was going out for brunch
Yeah.
with
Good
people
point.
who had never seen it, talked about the concept, and argued with me the like realities of it.
I know.
So
I know.
that's how deeply embedded the concept of this film was. So was this a responsible film? It's Pet Cemetery, y'all. It's got gore, it's got all of the horror. It's just, unfortunately, this is such a common issue in today's relationships and its dynamics between men and women,
Yep.
that it did feel like it needed something else to resolve itself, and
Yeah.
not everything coming to its reasonable conclusion was enough. But
Yeah.
it made a lot of money. It made a lot of money.
Today it has made over $420 million globally on a budget of less than one. He already
Hello.
has 4 or 5 new offers. We mentioned this film briefly when we did our Backrooms episode, which is episode 1 of season 2, back in May, June. We encourage you to check it out. To me, this is bro horror. I wrote a piece about this last year on my Substack if anybody wants to check it out. So there's a couple of YouTubers from around the world who have gotten a lot of big budgets. Yes, Kane Parsons is one of them for Backrooms. To me, he's the only good one. The rest are bro, infantile, juvenile, sexist, and misogynist. So the Philippou brothers who did Talk to Me and Bring Her Back. You have Zach Kreger who did Weapons, which I thought was a poorly constructed picture. And now we have Obsession by director Curry Barker, who is clearly young and clearly isn't thinking about sexual politics and the history of violence against women, especially domestic violence. So I found this to
Yeah.
be a long, sick joke about feminine hysteria, which is irresponsible. And he's young, so you understand that. But Mia, what I walked away thinking about was Gen Z. You know, Gen Z are identifying, 1 out of 6 people identifying Gen Z as not straight, not heterosexual, not heterosexual. If you look back the last couple of centuries, it's thought that around 1 out of 10 people are queer or gay. And we have wokeness, we have inclusion, we have experience over consumerism. We have all these tenets about Gen Z that seem to be positive. The majority of the audience for this is Gen Z. Gen Z loves this picture, and so I am walking away feeling just a little bit less confident in this generation. If this is what Gen Z wants to watch,
And
that's a bummer to me.
in
That's
other
sad.
words, we had a different film in Send Help, which you still have that same horror, you still
Good
have the
example.
gore, but there's
Yeah,
something about the films that recognize that they have to be like, we've lived in a society where everything is about that leading man and men's
right.
stories. And I think that's an easy lean to go in as a director. This film needed a little bit more careful attention because you had the actors. I remember thinking that this performance, there wasn't a single actor that falls flat or misses their cue, their signal. I just think that the perspective was so heavily masculine that even for me as a woman, I could see that, like, this is jokes on you guys. Like, when you try to make things, make women do things, look out, motherfuckers. Like, I could get into that. But I was like, I just needed a little more careful hands with someone going, like, I want to make sure this woman's story is also being, the sympathy is there. Give me her
Yes,
backstory. Give me some of her wants, desires, and
sure.
dreams. That gets left on the table, so you're always paying attention to, like, well, how does he feel? And that's where I was like, ah. But okay, can I
Yep.
tell you, if you've gone to some off Broadway shows, you know what I mean. When you're like, I'll buy that $20 off
Sure.
Broadway
Totally. I'll
show,
check this out.
and it's
Yeah.
like a musical of of I don't know, War of the Roses or something.
Yeah.
There's something about this that I was like, it leans off of that off Broadway. I don't need a major actor for it, but it did need a little bit more attention from its director in terms of making sure we had a full 360 narrative so that it didn't
Yep.
feel so it's okay to be violent towards women that you just don't understand or seem a little cray cray.
Yeah. That's
There
right.
you go.
You can make the call yourself. It's streaming on Apple and Amazon. One more before we take a break. This is one from a filmmaker that Mia and I are very excited about. Her name is Alicia Harris. This is her first feature, and it is God Is. This also had a short theatrical run, but we just loved it. Think of this as sort of a Southern Gothic Kill Bill. Harris has talked about how she loves the Kill Bill franchise. She's a big Tarantino fan. However, I found this so original. It is about the story of two young girls who, along with their mother, are horribly burned by their father. Fast forward 20 years, the mother sends them on a mission. She is played magnanimously by Vivica A. Fox under a bed of makeup, surrounded by these women that are sort of this Greek chorus. It has very ancient Greek tropes. The dad, listeners, is played for the first time with menace by Sterling K. Brown. We have never seen him like this, which is what makes him so creepy. It is a road movie, it is a buddy comedy, it is a violent gothic. I thought it was so outstanding. It reminded me of some of the work of Nia DaCosta and a couple of other new filmmakers experimenting in horror. I thought the set pieces were great. The structure was great. There's split screen. There is American Sign Language. There is twin speak. They can speak without speaking. I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of a rollicking good time. It is violent, but it is violent in bursts. So if you're thinking about watching it, think about Tarantino, where there might be a long scene of dialogue and then someone gets shot in the head or something like that. They're bursts of violence. This is not torture violence like Obsession. This is not space explosion violence like Project Hail Mary. This is kind of domestic suburban stuff, and I just thought it was great. Do you think that's a fair read, Mia?
You
Do
know
you
what?
remember liking it?
It's definitely got the fun gore factor, but it's
Yeah.
not as it's not horror, and it's meant to. It actually does something that Obsession doesn't, which is it does take the crime that happened to these women very seriously.
Yes.
So
Great point.
it treats it with a certain type of serious, and it doesn't shy away from the violence of that, and it shows just how cruel and grotesque violence is in general.
Yes.
So it's a fun film. I think it takes from a few spaces also, like if you grew up watching Poetic Justice, it has
Yeah.
that kind of more quieted cultural buddy on the road film energy to it
Yes.
that is certainly meant to be a classic. I think a lot of people kind of thought that the title was its setback.
Yeah.
In
It's
fact,
it doesn't roll off the tongue or in the mind. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So it became one of those things where when you said, "I want to go see that," people said, "What? What is that?" And you're like, "The one with Vivica A. Fox." And
Yes.
then everybody was
Yes.
like, "Oh yeah, oh
No,
yeah."
you're right. You're right.
So,
So the title and credit sequences are so innovatively and creatively done. They're very simple, but they use typeface in a new way. I have come to understand the title as a palindrome. So is God is, you switch the words around, it's the same. The girls call their mother God because she made them. And you could consider that each is on either side are one of the daughters. But I agree with you, Mia, that that's a level of complexity that as people are trying to figure out whether they want to spend time on a new filmmaker, that might trip them up. But we do urge you to see it. It's on Apple and Amazon now. And Mia, you mentioned gore and violence. You've got one to share with us that could take the cake in both of those categories right after this on Do You See What I Mean? All right, welcome back. We have seen Hugh Jackman in Logan. We have seen him on Broadway. We have seen him in Les Mis. We have seen him do almost anything, Mia. Tell us what Hugh Jackman had been up to with this picture.
Okay, so this one was actually really interesting because it's very going to be, I think, similar to what I was getting from what the Odyssey trailers were. If you've seen
Oh,
it,
okay.
you already know Robin Hood. I mean, he's the guy who robs from the rich, he steals and gives to the poor. So you didn't really need like this full breakdown, but this film takes the legend of Robin Hood to a whole nother level where it really does tackle like, hold on, this is a guy robbing from human beings, other human beings, rich or not. He didn't care if they were working with the government. He was going to shoot them in with his bow and arrow anyway. So what is he left with? This man is left with a legacy of a lot of carnage in his past, a lot of death, a lot of people who suffered at his hands, not just the merry men who, you know, walked
Okay,
away with some
interesting.
cash. So you have a lot of people who know of Robin Hood, his myth, or were impacted by him, and they want him dead. They are after their full
Yeah.
revenge. He's killed their children, their families, and he's one of those guys who's like, I take no prisoners because of it. And
Okay.
anyway, so him, and if you can remember of the story, there's a Little John.
Oh yeah,
Basically, end
Robin
up,
Hood and Little
you know,
John.
Little
Yeah.
John is gotten married and decided to have a life, but that
Okay.
did not go well for him because as people realize who he is and how he's associated with the legend, he is dealing with all of their revenge plans. So
Okay.
Robin Hood ends up hanging out with Jodie Comer from
Oh yeah. Yeah. Killing Eve
Killing
and
Eve.
the Last Duel. Yeah.
Yes, so he ends up having to heal and rest up on her special little, the
Okay.
convent that she's running, and he's also connecting with, people that he cares about. He's still a man. He's just a very violent man. And when
Okay.
I tell you, okay, here's the thing about the violence of this film, it's realistic to some degree, but then some of it is just, it feels stupid. I'm not gonna lie, some of it felt really stupid. It was like, when you and your siblings were fighting and you need that remote
Sure.
and you grab somebody, but imagine it's not a remote, it's a knife, or it's a
Yes.
hatchet, or it's the like fire stick, and it's like, how did y'all fight? The fighting was kind of goofy, ridiculous. Like, come on,
Yeah.
you clowns, get up off the ground. There was a little bit of that element to this film that made me giggle a few times. It's a very dark film. Like, the way that they shot it is very heavy, heavy, dark. So, quite frankly, it was very hard to stay hard. No, I'm joking. It was very hard to stay. It was very hard to stay like super whisked away with the mythology of this film, because quite frankly, I wish more films went this path. We saw this with Christopher Nolan's Batman, where you really expound on the legend of what this character is and how that would impact his everyday life, right? Just make it more realistic, get it off of the fairy tale. This film tries to explore those shadows and evils of our fairy tales in a way that it's like, yes, yes, y'all got the Disney version. We're going to give you the real adult legend, and it actually doesn't deliver. It relies too heavily on Hugh Jackman, and
Okay.
it
Yeah.
relies on too much of the fact that Hugh Jackman doesn't have to say a lot for us to
Right.
laugh or to understand where the danger is coming from. So this film relied very heavily on its performers, and once again was lacking that made it
Got it.
almost like the future of how we go back and retell. Like, really, we should go back and revisit
Sure.
these
Some of these,
stories.
yeah, these long fairy tales and stories. Yeah, for sure.
But this one kind of proves that if you do not have what Christopher Nolan had for Batman, it will not work. I know we've seen it in other, kind of like comic book characters, like,
Right.
where Joker,
The
and
Penguin.
the
Yeah.
Penguin. These things,
Yeah.
quite frankly, you really have to have a great script to work with. You can't just go, I'm going to lean on Colin Farrell in a costume, or I'm going to lean on Hugh Jackman looking like Daniel Day Lewis
Yes.
in
Right.
Crucible. Like, there's a vibe.
Yeah.
So, do you
Right.
see this movie? Here's what I picture. If you liked westerns, and if westerns were your genre, like my grandfather likes westerns, this is a movie he's throwing on, but he's got his headphones on in the living room while everybody else is
Yeah.
like
Great
talking in
point.
the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's that vibe.
Right. Okay.
You know.
Okay. Yeah. It just left theaters. There's a little bit about HBO Max streaming later this year, but again, we'll have to see. That is The Death of Robin Hood, starring Hugh Jackman. We've got we've got two more for you in our 2026 look back, and next up is Tuner, which is directed by Daniel Roher. If you saw the documentary Navalny, that's kind of his other major big one. but this is kind of new from him. It features Leo Woodall, who is sort of the cute blonde hunk from season 2 of The White Lotus. He plays sort of like the houseboy to Tom Hollander. Um, and then he's been in a couple other things. It is about a piano tuner who has a very severe audio disease where every sound is magnified, meaning he needs to wear earplugs and headphones for a lot of his daily life living in New York, which would seem very difficult for somebody with that condition. He is apprenticing under just a wonderful Dustin Hoffman, old Dusty. It was so great to be with him again on screen. And he is kind of aging. And Dustin Hoffman is married to the actress Tova Feldspa in this picture. She is wonderful. She was the mom in Kissing Jessica Stein, which is one of the last great New York rom-coms. They're a wonderful older couple who kind of takes Leo Woodall under his wing. Leo Woodall discovers that he can crack safes using his incredible hearing, and he becomes romantically involved with this beautiful cellist who is playing in the Symphony of New York.
Or I think she's a pianist. She's a pianist.
Or she's a pianist, yeah. So
Yeah.
Leah Woodall becomes romantically involved with this beautiful pianist and composer who's creating this symphony. This one got great buzz, Mia, and for great reason. It has great scene structure. Just the acting performances by our 4 to 6 leads are wonderful. It's got a little bit of crime, a couple bursts of violence, but nothing like Death of Robin Hood or Is God Is. Um, it was kind of a sleeper hit. I just loved it, and I had to catch it on streaming. But you saw it in theaters, I think, Mia,
Yeah,
right? A
I
couple
saw
months
it in
ago.
theaters. Yeah.
How do you remember this one?
Okay, so I was like, oh, I went to go see it because I hear that this disorder, or this is a very rare but real disorder.
Right.
And somebody had said that the film was really enjoyable to watch in spite of it not capturing like the full depths of how painful
Right.
this disorder is. So I was like, I want to go see it, and then I want to read about like where it didn't map out. But when I saw it in theater, I thought it was really clever and
Yes,
cute.
clever. Yeah.
And I thought it was really quite, it's like one of those films that actually has a good script.
Yeah,
And
it
once
does.
again, wasn't leaning heavy on any actors. And I did like the kind of the twist of the safe cracking and
Yeah.
dynamic.
It was clever, as you said.
Yeah, it made him a little bit of a Superman and sound as his kryptonite. So it was like a vibe where
Great
we
point.
stepped into somebody's world. Because it's very rare we step into the world of somebody who has a disorder or a disability, and
Yes.
we agree that they are the lead of what this story ought to be about. We tend to go like, you know what I mean? We tend to look
Yes.
at it differently. This one, I felt like I quickly connected into is like, yes, this is the world he's going to live in. This is the world I'm going to live in for this film. So they made it really cute, and they made it actually quite interesting. I had one issue with it, which
Talk
was
about
at the very end. So growing up, I had a very good friend of mine who was a concert pianist. She traveled around the world.
Oh, wow.
And I remember she was very good. She was known for being a prodigy. And I asked her, I was like, what makes you so good? Because she had been playing since she was like 4 or 5 years old, And, it was one of those things. She was teacher's pet. And she was like, look, you either have it or you don't. And every musician has their own little skill. Some of them are like your Alicia Keys, where they can just write song after song and step into your heart. But some are like Ray Charles. They can play just on
Sure.
sound alone. They don't need anything. But she was like, I'm a really good performer in terms of being able to learn the tune, play it well, move with the music, and just deliver. But there are a lot of people who practice 10 hours more than me and will never be there. And
Right.
that's the hardest part about, heading in this direction, because she didn't want to do it. She was like, I hate playing the piano. But there were so many people who would just kill to have just that raw natural talent.
Yeah,
So
the raw
when-
talent.
So when the main character is kind of like having a meltdown with his girlfriend and makes those comments, I remember thinking to myself, like, that is way below the belt. Like, that
Okay.
is a
Yeah.
insecurity that lives within every musician that you do not hit at that area, because
Right.
they all have their own envies and insecurities, and I'm not as good as that person, and they all have their own talents. And so at the very end of this film, spoiler alert, there's like a dynamic where he kind of uh, you know resolves what his skill or talent was. And I found it a little grandstanding and a little uncomfortable
Yeah.
for the particular craft. I was like,
Yeah.
this to me gives me Insecure Man 10 times over. Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, you get what I'm saying. But I was
Yeah. I know what
like,
you mean.
whoever wrote into this maybe had the music, had the pianist, had all these things, but when they got the script, they did not really think about how that lands. If you're a musician, I think what he said was probably the most hurtful thing a partner could say to you.
It was
That
pretty vicious. Yeah.
it
We
was
won't
vicious.
spoil it, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was
Yeah.
my only like, damn, he was
I think that's fair.
cute.
Yeah, I remember having that same reaction. I also would say that this would be a great film for a Tuesday night watch for a couple at home, for like a mature family, for a couple of friends who are musicians. It has some nice appeal across audience types, and you can find it on Apple and Amazon. All right, one last one on our list, Mia. I was just sharing with you that every year I rewatch the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. We were a Disneyland family growing up. Pirates was our favorite ride. I just love the Pirates franchise, and they were directed by Gore Verbinski, who has a lot of interesting films in his filmography, including The Ring, Cure for Wellness, The Weatherman, and his latest picture is Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. So, Mia, tell us about this one.
Okay, this one was really fun. I knew when I saw the preview it was going to be freaking wacky as hell.
It
I
looks super
knew
wacky.
it's
Yeah.
wacky as hell. I always like time travel films because I think time is such an interesting concept. It's the only thing we don't get back, right? It's your most valuable resource. So, this is a film that is dealing with time travel and how it's impacted their identity and what they
Okay.
believe their future is. So you have guy Sam Rockwell who comes in from the future to the past to set something up and save the world, but he has to get a group of people to help him. So he always has to keep coming back and forth just to like
Okay.
restart
Yeah.
the whole journey. And
Yeah.
in the midst of that, of course, he's discovering his own history, his own identity. And then, of course, you have all of these other characters who are confronted with, like, how do I participate in saving the
Right.
world? So you're watching it going, what would I have done? Would I have raised my hand? Would I have joined forces?
Oh, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
how would I have adapted if something like this ever happened? And it was a fun, fun adventure. It runs a little longer than it
Okay.
needs to, and beating home like what the rules are of this world, how things work. But I thought it was very patient in making sure we understood. So you didn't walk away going, that didn't make, I mean, why did they? You didn't walk away arguing with yourself on this one, which can happen on a time travel film. Like, why didn't they just go back to the very beginning? Like,
Right. Right.
there's a dynamic where it explains itself very, very well. And I thought that Sam Rockwell, it's a Sam Rockwell movie.
I was going
Like,
to ask you about his performance.
it's
Yeah.
it's what I think you write the script for him. Like, you literally just like
Yes.
go, this is the story,
Probably.
and this guy comes in and like, what would you do, Sam? And he's like, I'd jump on a table and I'd
Yeah.
but he's very witty. He's very the action is very how would you run away from a car chasing you down the street? How would you
Yes.
run in a garage? It's got that level of realism that was fun. So this was
Yeah.
magical realism for our culture because it's talking about technology, it's talking about time travel, and that is the one thing, if you live in a capitalist world, that is the one thing we're always trying to buy back, whether it's our beauty, our
You
youth,
said it.
our vacations, our status. And I definitely think this is an American genre film. Like, this is
Okay.
American.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Got it. You can check it out on Hulu and Amazon. We're going to take one last break before we come back to talk about a couple of our favorite films of the year and just take a quick look ahead at the remainder of 2026 on Do You See What I Mean? Mia, so that was our rundown of 8 to 10 films we think are worth discussing and or checking out. Do you have any favorites this year? So it's July. We're halfway to the Academy Awards, basically. As you look back on the last 6 months, what stands out? Any favorites or even any disappointments that you would have wanted more from?
You know what? I was really for years just like with all of the Marvel films just going, will we ever get a different script that just talks
Yeah,
about people? And
yeah,
right now, I think we're in need of that. People are very, today is a very different type of day where we just are very impatient with each other. We are not in the mood. We want everybody to think the way we think. It's hard. And I definitely think we need more films talking about how to hold relationship with each other even when
yeah.
we agree or don't disagree, or we disagree or we don't disagree, which is meaning we double agree. But I thought the
Good point.
invite kind of delivered something for me. The drama
Yeah,
delivered
I
something for
agree.
me. I don't think they were necessarily perfect in that, they're the only types of films. I liked Send Help for my, like,
Oh, loved
modern
it.
day Kathleen Turner's
Yes,
adventure.
yes.
Crime 101 brought me back, like, action from the 80s. There was just a lot of really good, there's films that are really being, the attention to the scripts and who's in it, I think, are looking really special. I'm starting to see, like you called it out, like Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, all of these people are going to be in the same films coming up. I'm starting to see a new Rat Packs groups where
Yeah.
they like working together and recreating new dynamics, new dialogues. There was films that I definitely knew did not like, and I was like, maybe if you'd come out 5 years ago, nobody would have complained. But you're up against some better films. Is
That's
God
right.
is God is to me? I think it's one of those films like, how do you keep recreating two or three of those every year? I love boosters. I need one of those every single year.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
this is where I was like, there were films that I was like, these are so good. I want investment dollars starting to look for what these are. We need more ways of telling stories about people. Because I know a lot of people would be like, I didn't see it. I thought it was a. They won't say this out loud, Joey, not to me, but they think it's a black film, and they forget
Ah,
that these are films about people. These are
yep.
films about people. They're about their identities, their cultures. It has no particular,
Yeah.
like the
It's
comedy
it's
may lean, but it's not.
and
These are
it's also
people
a
movies.
incomplete statement. I mean, if you look at Is God Is as an example, Alicia Harris has deified Quentin Tarantino, who in the 70s deified blaxploitation pictures that he attended with his mom's black boyfriend. So it started with black film. So if and that's just that one example. I don't mean
Well,
to say
that's what,
all film,
but
but
no, but you're seeing
these
it. Those are a
the
lot of times black films, and it's like, no, these are people films. These are
yeah,
films about
we're beyond
people.
that. Yes,
We're
exactly.
in a space where we're talking about people and how they're making money. They're talking
Yes,
about how they need money. We're talking about what side of town they had to live on, what kind of prop, and we're all there today.
yes,
So
I
I,
agree.
I
Yeah,
definitely felt like when I say "Is God Is," the title is. I'm like, it's a film that, you know when we went to go see it, it was a very mixed audience. We went on the baby day
absolutely. Yep,
viewing, and I'm like, don't sleep on these just because the cast
absolutely.
does not look like you.
Yeah, my favorites list mirrors yours. Send Help was just the best ride at the movies. The Invite was kind of the best human drama. Is God Is was one of the best expressions of talent from a new filmmaker. I love boosters. You know, you kind of said it. We want an outcast film, an alt film, a crazy film that doesn't follow rules every year. And then my biggest disappointment this year and then my biggest disappointment this year was Disclosure Day, and we covered it a couple episodes ago. And I just really wanted to like it so much more, and I rewatch so much of Spielberg's filmography every year, especially in the summer because many are outdoor adventures. And Mia, I'm gonna share just a really bummer number today. Disclosure's Day. Disclosure Day's total global box office is 230 million. We just mentioned that Obsession and Backrooms hit or exceeded the 400 million mark. that really says something about filmmaking today, about audiences, about what a blockbuster is, about how old people are when they're going to movies. It's
Yeah.
just an interesting year, and I think that you could say that we're at an inflection point. We're at a point of change right
Yeah.
now. You
Because
know,
you know what I saw, and I was like, this is
yeah.
definitely, it's not on my list, but I saw you, me, and Tuscany. Y'all,
Oh,
it looks just as cheesy as it is in the theater. But when I tell you, I was going to a packed theater in the middle of the day.
sure,
So we're at a space where people want this variety. They want a little romance. They don't mind if it's
right,
cheesy. They want a good script, and they want people to they want storytelling where you don't need to spend $1 million and an
right.
over effort to get me there. So Disclosure Day, I agree with you. It's the biggest miss for me this year because damn, how you have all that money, you have all that talent, you have any bit of
I know
scripts
it.
you can choose from,
I know it.
and you stuck with that. And I think the 200 million is well deserved. It's like that's kind of all that should hit those coffers.
It might be. It might be. Before we go, let's just take a quick peek into the future of the rest of the year. Obviously, tomorrow we will be at the Odyssey. Later this summer, we have another Tom Holland vehicle, Spider-Man: Brand New Day. I don't know which one in the Spider-Man franchise that is. Could be 7, could be 12. I don't know. DC gets a bit darker with Clayface, which is a body horror film about that comic book villain. Mia, you know that I texted you when I saw the trailer for Practical Magic 2 with Sandra and Nicole, and I was like, I didn't know that I wanted to see this. Do
You
I
want
want
to
to see
see it.
this now?
You definitely want to see it. Come on. And can I tell you, it's like
Oh
it's
my
that
God.
movie that I'm hoping it's cheesy. I'm hoping it's
Yes.
cheesy.
Yes, I know. This week, a new trailer for the Inarritu film. Sorry. This week, the trailer for the Tom Cruise Inarritu film Digger came out, Mia. We're going to cover this trailer the next time we talk. So, Mia, I don't know if you remember if you saw. Mia, I don't remember if you saw Tropic Thunder, in which Tom Cruise plays
Yes.
an insane
It's like my
executive. Do you remember this?
it's like my parents, like they think that movie is so
They think it's
funny.
hilarious.
They
Okay,
think
so
it's
what
hilarious.
that energy, wacky, bizarre Tom Cruise is what we have here. He plays this kind of overweight guy from the South who is drilling in Greenland and something bad happens. This is high farce. This is slapstick. This is a repeated bit with the dying cat. This is Tom Cruise in a like a weight suit and tons of makeup. They are swinging for it for this one, and it looks hilarious to me. I've seen some headlines about how the industry is not sure if the film knows what it is. They keep changing some of the marketing. They added the term a comedy to the poster, which some podcasters feel like that might not work out, but it's a great trailer. Um, we have another Anne Hathaway vehicle in Verity, which is based off of a Colleen Atwood novel, I think.
Yeah.
Um, we mentioned Weapons last year, which I wasn't a fan of. Filmmaker Zach Kreger has gone straight to franchise remakes, and he's doing Resident Evil. We have the follow up to The Social Network, which was an Academy Award nominated film by David Fincher about Facebook. This one's called The Social Reckoning. The trailers look bad, the script looks bad, the concept looks bad. Um, we've got a super intense action thriller. This is the most intense trailer of the year, listener. It's called Whale Fall. It has Josh Brolin and some other folks, and it is about getting trapped in a whale. So that is a huge thriller we're looking at later this year. Mia, I know that you are just itching in your seat to get to Avengers Doomsday in
Oh
December.
Lord
I
Jesus.
know you are so excited to see
Sure.
Robert Downey Jr. in a
Sure.
mask, right? You're just dying for it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. I already have
sure.
my ticket, y'all. One scare, please.
That's right. Then, if you have been missing Timothy Chalamet, you can see him yelling and not being aged up 17 years effectively in the final Dune installment, Dune Part 3, that comes out in December. That's from Denis Villeneuve, before we lose him for at least a couple of films to Amazon and the James Bond franchise. So that trailer came out this week as well, a new trailer for Dune Part 3, Mia. I don't think it looks great. I think that all of his films are great. I think that it can't be that bad. They're going to have some beautiful set pieces, but it just looks like actors who are too young yelling about religion in the desert, frankly. How do you feel about those movies, Mia? The first two
Okay.
Dunes.
Okay, so those to me are like all your big like you guys. If you went to the movies, you would have saw some trailer or you would have started hearing about it. I'm never super excited about these films. There are some where I'm like, I'm curious, and that's different. The Odyssey, I'm very curious.
Curious.
I'm
Yeah.
curious. I'm hearing so many good things about it that I'm like, let me see if everyone's right, or let me see if everybody's hyped, or like let me see if everybody's paid. There's a few sleepers that come out in between this that I'm hoping I hope I could talk you into going see.
Okay.
But I know I have some work I gotta do. I gotta lay some groundwork before I can talk you into seeing it.
I
but
trust you. I mean, this last 6 months, I enjoyed the drama. I enjoyed a couple of others that I would have skipped, were it not for your wisdom. So please do share it. Yeah,
All right, now I'm at the lay some
absolutely.
groundwork though, Joey.
Let's do it.
They've got some claws we got to dig into. Otherwise, so far, yeah, it looks like this is why when we talk about all of these films that we didn't do episodes on, there
Right.
are some moments where when you look at that list, that's where you can see where these films may sit at award season.
Right.
You're yes, the Odyssey may sweep, but there are 10 films that get nominated, and quite frankly, it is not going to be Avengers Doomsday,
That's right.
and it's not going to be Resident Evil, and it's not going to be Practical Magic 2. It's not going to be Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's going to be some of the films that we listed here that I think, when people look back at 2026, they're going to go, wait, are our award seasons shifting? Are we starting
Yes.
to see that films that have the smaller budgets and the less like blockbuster buildup are actually the ones that are worth honoring and saying hello to? So this is why I'm like, please go back, listen, because if you heard that list, none of those star Meryl Streep. None of those star
Hey, good
Angela.
point.
Look, I'm like
Good
maybe
point.
one of them might star an Angela Bassett or a like or some,
Yes.
but
Vivica
the movie,
Fox.
the
Yeah.
performances we got are so wonderfully ensemble throughout this list of stuff that we've called out, and I think a lot of the directors, the ones that made our list, were also ones where you do have some promising directors. So maybe they skip this year, but if they get some money, they may have something really special for us next year, and you'll want this history to kind of like get an idea of like their style. Um, so yeah,
I
um,
think that's a great summary of 2026. And we have a couple more episodes in our summer season before we take a break for August and September and come back for the fall movie season. But first, we have a Cyclops, we have Hydras, we have gods, and we have a poor queen left alone on a rocky island for 19 years waiting for her husband in the new Christopher Nolan epic, The Odyssey. That's next week here on Do You See What I Mean?